Have you ever wondered why just one careless comment from someone can stir up your whole day, while someone else hears the same thing and just shrugs it off with a smile? Same situation, but a completely different reaction. Maybe it's not really about the words or the situation. Maybe it's about how we receive it. Or maybe there were moments when you felt stuck inside your own mind, when anger flared up and words slipped out too fast, only to be followed by a long trail of regret. If only I had stayed calm, you think. If only I could have stepped outside my emotions and watched myself like a friend. But how can we do that when the mind is burning like a wildfire? And have you ever seen someone being criticized or insulted and yet they stay calm? No anger, no reaction, just peace in their face, as if protected by an invisible shield of stillness. What's their secret? Where did they learn that? And is it something you can learn too? These three questions about emotional wounds, about anger, and about staying grounded in the storm are exactly what Buddhist teachings have been exploring for thousands of years. Buddhism doesn't promise to make you emotionless, but it does show you how to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. Through the practices of mindfulness, compassion, letting go, and cultivating wisdom, you begin to see that peace doesn't come from the outside. It's not a gift, it's a skill. A trainable skill built from within, day by day. So the real question becomes, how do we feel anger without letting it pull us under? How do we stay calm when words around us fly like arrows straight to the heart? And how can we turn negative emotions into positive energy that actually uplifts our life? In this video, I want to share with you 21 powerful practices from the heart of Buddhist wisdom each. 1. A gentle tool to help you regulate your emotions and find steadiness in this ever-changing world. 1. Gratitude, the key that unlocks happiness. Let me start with a moment from a morning meditation retreat in California. A woman in her 50s approached quietly and asked, "Teacher, how do I stop tormenting myself over all the things I've lost? My family, time, youth, there's so much I can't get back." And while her question may sound deeply personal, it's actually a question shared by many, especially those who've crossed the middle of life and started looking back on the road they've traveled. Here's what we often don't realize. Our suffering doesn't always come from what we lack, but from how much we cling to what's gone or what hasn't arrived yet. And in that endless cycle of wanting and regretting, gratitude quietly disappears. In Buddhist teachings, there's a beautiful practice called turning the light inward. It means looking into ourselves instead of searching outward. And one of the very first lights we discover on that inward path is the light of gratitude. Gratitude doesn't have to be grand or poetic. It begins with small things. A warm meal, a friend who checks in, a ray of morning sunlight on the porch. Maybe these things happen every day, but because they're so familiar, we forget their blessings. People often ask monks, "How do I reduce my anger, my frustration?" And sometimes the answer isn't about meditating harder or forcing discipline. Sometimes it's simply returning to gratitude. Because when the heart is grateful, negativity fades naturally. You can't feel deep gratitude and resentment at the same time. Just like you can't light up a room and keep the darkness. The Buddha once said, "Gratitude is the foundation of all good qualities." Gratitude brings humility. It makes us gentle, and it opens our eyes to the truth that every moment, even the quiet one, is a miracle. There's an elderly man I once met at a senior care center. Every morning, he wrote the same 3 short lines. "Thank you for waking up today. Thank you for the morning tea. Thank you for the light by the window." Not because he had so much to be grateful for, but because he had trained his mind to see what was already there. Happiness doesn't live far away. It's always been herein, your breath, in your steps, in your loved one's smile. Gratitude simply gives you new eyes to see an old life with a fresh heart. Maybe one day, the dinner table will feel a little emptier. Maybe one morning, you'll be surprised by how silver your hair has become. Maybe an old memory will knock at your door. But instead of curling into sorrow, you can softly whisper to yourself, "Thank you for still giving me today." To return to myself, gratitude doesn't require having a lot. It only asks that we recognize what we already have. And when we see enough, we feel enough. And when the heart feels enough, it rests. Even if the world still spins with storms. That's why, in many Buddhist monasteries, even a simple bowl of rice is met with a bow of thanks. Thanks to the earth. Thanks to the farmers. Thanks to the cook. Thanks to the chants. To eat with awareness. Because they know every moment of mindful gratitude is a small miracle. So maybe starting today, no matter how old we are, we ask ourselves, what can I feel grateful for right now? Sometimes, that's all it takes to keep the heart from sinking. And from the ground of gratitude, we'll begin walking deeper into other practices that will help us stay calm in the chaos. 2. Emotional sovereignty, mastering your inner sky. There's a beautiful image that comes to mind. Imagine someone standing in the middle of a vast field, holding the string of a soaring kite. Every time the wind shifts, they gently adjust the string knot too tight, not too loose to keep the kite steady in the air. That kite is your mind. And the string is your emotional sovereignty. So many people spend their whole lives trying to change the world around them, other people, situations, jobs, words. But they forget one vital truth: the real world, the one that truly matters, lives inside. That's where peace begins, and that's also where suffering starts. I remember one day at a retreat center in Oregon, a middle-aged doctor came up to ask a question. He said, "I work in a high-pressure environment. People compete, and sometimes they even insult each other. How do I not let it get to me?" That question sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because nearly all of us have been there. When just a few words from someone can send our emotions spiraling. But here's a truth we often overlook. No one can press your anger button unless you give them access. It sounds simple, but to truly live this truth takes time because we've been conditioned from a young age to blame. I'm angry because he disrespected me. I'm sad because she didn't appreciate me. I'm disappointed because they didn't understand me. But in Buddhist wisdom, emotions don't arise because of what others do. They arise from how we receive and react to what happens. The words that hurt us, they're just sound. It's only when our mind starts labeling, judging, attaching stories to those sounds that the emotional waves start to rise. There's a powerful line in the Dhammapada: words cannot hurt you unless your mind opens the door to let them in. That, right there, is the starting point of inner wisdom, realizing that we get to choose how to respond. It's like someone throwing a stone into a pond. You can't stop the stone from falling, but you can stop the ripples from spreading endlessly. How? By coming back to the breath, by pausing, by noticing. Picture this. You walk into work one morning and a coworker says something snarky. You feel that familiar stingan old sore spot touched again. But instead of reacting right away, you take one deep breath. You ask yourself, why is this stirring something in me? And in that small moment of awareness, half the emotion already settles. When you realize that you hold the key to your inner space that no one gets to walk in without your permission, a quiet kind of freedom begins to grow. And this freedom isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about letting emotions pass through you without letting them control you. Just like clouds float across the sky remains untouched. Chances are, you've had a moment like that before. When you stayed calm during a heated conversation, when you chose silence over arguing, when you smiled instead of snapping back. Those moments, however brief, are proof that emotional sovereignty can be trained. And the more we cultivate it, the more our lives begin to change. No longer dragged around by anger or thrown off by judgment, but grounded, like a tree standing firm in the wind. This emotional sovereignty, it's not something anyone else can give you. It's a gift you give yourself through practice, through mindfulness, through presence. And from that grounded place, you begin to transform even the most intense emotions, anger, disappointment, sadness, into something powerful, like turning a gust of stormy wind into the flame that lights your way. 3. The power of silence. Not responding is mastery. There's a kind of power that doesn't come from speaking, but from not speaking. Not because there's nothing to say, not because the heart feels nothing, but because there's enough mindfulness to understand. Reacting doesn't always mean you've kept your dignity. I remember an afternoon meditation at a Buddhist center in Seattle. A man, a war veteran who had been through deep wounds, stood up and shared, "I used to react to everything. Even the smallest insult, I had to fire back. But the more I reacted, the more exhausted I became. And one day, I just stayed quiet. For the first time, I felt peace. That one Linzhou simple marked a turning point in his journey. Because in this life, we're always going to hear things we don't like. Some people speak carelessly, some speak to hurt, and some just because they're hurting themselves. If we react to every word, every jab, every irritation, we'll burn out quickly. In Buddhist teaching, there's a profound concept called hiri ottappa, kind of moral conscience. It's the wisdom that says, wait, don't lose yourself in this heat. So silence, in this sense, isn't avoidance. It's strength. It's compassion for yourself. So you don't burn your own heart in someone else's fire. There's a well-known story from the Buddha's life. One day, a man came and hurled insults at the Buddha. The Buddha didn't say a word. After a while, the man asked, "Why aren't you saying anything?" The Buddha smiled gently and replied, "If you offer me a gift, and I don't accept it, who does it belong to?" The man said, "It's still mine." The Buddha said, "Exactly. I don't accept your insults, so they remain with you." That's the power of silence. Not weak, not passive, but steady, like a mountain. In our daily lives, we're not always going to be like the Buddha. We'll still feel anger, still get hurt. But if you can even once pause instead of react, if someone says something hurtful, and you choose to breathe for just 5 seconds before replying, that pause might save a relationship. It might protect your peace. It might save you. Society often says, if you don't fight back, you're weak. But true strength, it's in restraint. Because you can't control other people's words, but you can absolutely control your response. And when you stop letting emotions pull you into instant reactions, you keep your mind clear. And that clarity is worth far more than any petty victory. In meditation, there's a practice called return to the breath before you speak. Just pause 3 breaths. Then ask, do I really need to speak? And if so, what am I speaking from? Most of what we say in anger ends up wounding someone, maybe even ourselves. But what we choose not to say in mindfulness is almost always worth holding back. The right silence at the right moment is not avoidance. It's wisdom. It's compassion. It protects your heart, your dignity, and your peace. And from that solid ground, when your emotions no longer control you, you begin to see something deeper. All emotions, they rise and fall as long as we don't hold on to them. 4. Letting go. The art of flowing with life. There are things in life, the more we try to hold on to them, the more they weigh us down. Like trying to keep a handful of water only to watch it slip through our fingers, drop by drop. Or holding on to someone who's already walking away. A closed chapter from the past. A result that never came to be. All of it just adds more weight to the heart. But the truth is, in Buddhist teachings, there's a profound lesson. Everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever, not joy, not sorrow, not even the relationships we once thought would last a lifetime. Impermanence isn't something to fear. It's a gift-hand invitation to begin again, to release the past and step forward with a lighter heart. But to walk that path, there's one essential practice: letting go. I remember during a fall retreat in the mountains of California, a woman came up to share. I still can't let go of what happened. It's been 5 years, but every time I remember, my heart still aches. No one can blame her. Pain is real. Memories are real. And we humans are tender, being sensitive, emotional, easily touched. But because we feel deeply, it's all the more important to learn the art of letting go, to forget, but to live more lightly. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean turning your back or pretending nothing happened. Letting go means accepting things as they are without demanding they be something else to match what our heart longs for. The Buddha once used a powerful image. If someone is shot with an arrow, the first thing to do isn't to get angry or analyze why it happened. It's to remove the arrow. Holding on to the arrow only prolongs the suffering. Letting go is how healing begins. In life, many of us carry not just one arrow, but dozens, even hundreds. From events that should have been laid to rest. From people who've already left and should have been blessed on their way. From dreams that didn't come true but still taught us the courage to try. There's an elderly couple I once met who shared their secret to a peaceful marriage. Whenever we argue, we always practice letting go before bed. Otherwise, we carry that anger into our dream sand, wake up already tired. Letting go isn't easy, but not letting go is harder. Because everything we cling to becomes a burden. And the heart can't fly when it's too weighed down. Some people say, I'm afraid that if I let go, I'll lose everything. But no, you won't lose what truly matters. Letting go doesn't make you lose. It helps you see what's actually worth holding on to. Everything else? They were just passing through to teach you something and leave at the right time. Just like a riveret's water always flows. Try to hold on to one patch of water, and the river can no longer move forward. Life is the same. It flows. Nothing stays fixed. Nothing stays just like before. There's a gentle meditation reminder that says, inhaling, I acknowledge the feeling inside me. Exhaling, I smile to it and let it drift away like clouds across the sky. Letting go doesn't start with the big things. It begins in the small. A judgment, a past mistake, an unmet expectation, even someone's unfriendly glance today. You can learn to tell yourself, this isn't worth losing my peace over, and just let it go. From that practice, a new kind of heart starts to grow lighter, broader, more grateful. And when we stop clinging, we finally learn how to live fully in the present, not shadowed by the past, not anxious about the future. 5. The art of staying calm in chaos, holding steady in the storm. There's a saying carved on the wall of an old monastery. Waves can't drown the one who knows how to breathe underwater. Everyone, at some point, meets waves. Waves of change, waves of loss, waves of illness, betrayal, loneliness, crisis. The real challenge isn't to avoid the waves. It's learning how to stay grounded in the middle of them. A middle-aged woman once came to see a meditation teacher. Her voice trembled as she spoke about losing her job, a sick family member, and feeling like her whole life was falling apart. "I try to meditate," she said. "I chant Buddha's name, but my heart is still panicking. How can I stay calm in all this?" The teacher didn't answer right away. He poured her a cup of tea and gently said, "In a storm, we don't learn to stop the storm. We learn how to build a strong shelter within. That's the wisdom of calm. It's not waiting for the outside world to settle before we feel peace. It's learning to stay steady even while everything around us is falling apart." The Buddha taught, "Look deeply into the nature of all things, and you'll see everything that arises also passes." Even in suffering, if you can pause for just one breath, the pain loses some of its grip. When hardship strikes, our instinct is to react, fear, resistance, anger, blame. But a trained mind chooses to stop, breathe deeply, and gently remind itself, "This too shall pass." That line, simple as it is, a powerful medicine in the Dharma, because nothing lasts forever, not joy, not sorrow. There's a well-known story of a king who asked a Zen master, "Give me one sentence that helps me stay awake when I'm happy and stay grounded when I'm sad." The master replied, "This too shall pass." Just those 4 words enough to remind us that hardships are just waves in the vast ocean of life. And the ocean is our own mind. In real life, I've seen people face tragedy not by collapsing, but by quietly standing back up every day. Some lost loved ones, but still chose to love again. Some went through bankruptcy, but didn't lose faith in themselves. Some were betrayed, but didn't become bitter toward life, because they knew the storm will pass. And what we plant in the storm is what we'll harvest when the skies clear. So the art of living isn't in avoiding pain. It's in learning to stand inside the pain without breaking. There's a simple yet powerful meditation you can try during hard times. Breathing in, I acknowledge this sorrow. Breathing out, I release it gently like a cloud drifting across the sky. Every breath is a small letting go. Every letting go is a step toward calm. And from that calm, wisdom begins to bloom. Eventually, the heart realizes there is a place no storm can reach. It's the inner space trained by mindfulness and compassion. And once you're steady in the storm, you'll see something deeper. True peace doesn't come from what's outside. It comes from how you choose to see it all. 6. The journey of self, from I to pure awareness. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? Not the name on your ID. Not your job title, your roles in the family, or the social image others see. But the deeper I, the part of you that gets hurt when you're not acknowledged, that swells with pride when praised, and that feels lost when things fall apart. In Buddhism, the path of practice isn't about becoming someone. It's about seeing clearly the nature of who you are and gently releasing what you thought was you. One of the greatest sources of suffering in life is attachment to the imagined self. That self is shaped by memories, things our parents once said, wounds from childhood, praise we received, criticism we endured. And over time, all those impressions form a picture in our head. I'm this kind of person, I must succeed. I must be loved, I must be right. But if we look closely, that self isn't fixed. When we're happy, the self sees life in color. When misunderstood, it feels small and wounded. In success, it believes it's better than others. In failure, it shrinks into shame. That's why the Buddha taught, the self is just an illusion made up of conditions form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. There is no permanent I, just a constant stream of sensations, memories, thoughts, and reactions. Once, someone asked the Buddha, "Do you see yourself as a great teacher?" He smiled and replied, "I'm simply someone who sees things as they are." It wasn't humility. It was freedom because there was no longer a self to defend or prove. So many of our struggles don't come from life being too hard. They come from our self-image being challenged, feeling insulted, ignored, abandoned, or not living up to our own expectations. Think about it. If someone calls you an awful name, but you don't carry that identity within you, won't be hurt. Words only sting when there's a self inside craving recognition. The spiritual path is a journey from I to seeing. From feeling like the center of the universe, to realizing everything arises and fades based on conditions. From believing we must always be right, to seeing that no one is above or below everyone, is just learning different lessons in life. A Buddhist practitioner once shared that he used to feel deeply offended when his coworkers ignored his ideas. But after some time practicing meditation, he realized it wasn't them making me angry, it was my own ego feeling disrespected. From then on, he started observing that ego waned. Slowly, it softened. To see the truth of non-self isn't to lose yourself. It's to shed illusions so you can touch what's real. A peaceful mind that isn't swayed by praise or blame. In Vipassana meditation, there's a beautiful practice. Just observe without labeling. Just see without judgment. When all that remains is pure seeing, there's no room for ego to arise. And in that space, something shifts. You live with more humility, more compassion, and far less pain. Because there's no false self to protect, no image to uphold. 7. Training emotions like refining gold, turning poison into medicine. There's a powerful image in Buddhist texts. Raw gold must be heated, washed, and refined before it becomes a precious ornament. Negative emotions like anger, jealousy, sadness are just like raw gold covered in mud. If we only see the dirt and throw it away, we lose the treasure inside. Negative emotions aren't the enemy. They're raw material for awakening. They come not to destroy us, but to reveal what's still misunderstood and unloved within. One Buddhist practitioner once said that whenever someone insulted him, he'd explode with uncontrollable anger. But instead of suppressing or denying it, he learned to sit with it, breathe, and watch it like a parent watching a crying child. He stopped yelling, "Shut up," at his anger, and gently whispered, "I see you, I'm listening." And in that moment, something amazing happened. The anger stopped burning and started illuminating. The Buddha taught a profound truth. Seeing suffering is the first step toward enlightenment. Anger is no different. It's just a signal of inner pain. Often, those who anger easily are those who've been deeply hurt. Jealousy, a sign of not trusting your own worth. Loneliness, a longing for someone to fill a space in your heart. If we only try to repress emotions, it's like hiding trash under the bed. It doesn't disappear, it just waits to rot. But with awareness like fire, refining gold anger can turn into understanding, jealousy into compassion, sadness into tenderness. There's a powerful meditation teaching. When emotions rise, don't rush to act. Just watch them like the moon behind drifting clouds. The clouds will pass, the moon remains. And that's exactly what happens. When we're willing to sit with our emotions without letting them control us, we begin refining the heart one day at a time. This journey isn't easy, but it doesn't need to be rushed. Each time you notice anger and don't act on it, that's growth. Each time you forgive instead of retaliating, you're polishing your heart. And each time you look at someone who hurt you with compassion instead of hate, you're turning poison into medicine. People often think a monk feels no anger or sadness, but that's not true. A monk feels everything just like anyone else. The only difference is they know how to transform emotions rather than be dragged by them like a kite in a storm. So go ahead, feel angry, but don't be consumed by it. Feel sad, but don't let sadness freeze your heart. Feel it all, but remember, emotions are guests, not the host. You are the host. And the more you learn to welcome emotions with awareness, the more they'll start to reveal their gift hidden in the mud, waiting to become gold. 8. Compassion, the energy that heals and connects. Have you ever found it really hard to forgive someone? Someone who hurt you not just with words or actions, but sometimes with cold, silent distance? Forgiveness is never easy. But you know what's even harder? Looking at that person with compassion. In Buddhist teachings, compassion isn't just being kind. It's a powerful energy of healing. It's the ability to see the pain behind someone's behavior and the strength to keep your heart open, even when it's been cracked before. A friend once asked me, how can I possibly feel compassion for someone who talked behind my back, who broke my trust? And the answer isn't about justifying what they did. It's about understanding those who hurt others are often deeply hurt themselves. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred. Only love can end hatred. Sounds lofty, doesn't it? But it's actually very real, very human. When someone yells at us, what's really going on inside them? They might be stressed, scared, feeling unheard, or unloved. If we just respond with anger, we're clashing two wounds together and making a new one. But if just one person pauses, breathes, and asks, where does it hurt? That one question could open a door for both of you to walk out of the pain. Compassion doesn't mean being weak. It doesn't mean letting others walk all over you in silence. Compassion is strength. The kind of strength that comes from inner freedom and deep understanding. It's the power to not let your reaction control you. It's the wisdom to not let hate lead your life. Someone once shared a story about their father, how they were beaten throughout childhood. But instead of growing up with resentment, they chose to quietly learn about their dad's past. Turns out, the father had once been a child too abandoned, beaten, unloved. That insight didn't erase the pain, but it softened the heart. And in time, that burden carried for decades was finally let go. You see, compassion isn't just for them. It's also for you. Because when you can look at someone else with softness, you're also being gentle with your own heart. Pain that isn't understood becomes a blade, but pain that's seen with compassion becomes a doorway. And that doorway doesn't open with logic. It opens with love. Compassion connects you across differences, across anger, across misunderstandings. And when the heart connects, the world outside might not change right away, but your inner world already has. An old Zen master once said, when someone hurts you, don't rush to hate them. Think of them as someone crying for help, but they don't know how to ask. Compassion is not a theory. It's the journey of a brave heart, a heart that dares to open in a world that often shuts down. 9. Inner silence, the quiet that gives you strength. There are sounds you can only hear when it's completely quiet. And there are answers that only come when the mind stops being noisy. Today, in a world full of noise, people are better at talking, but worse at listening. not listening to others, but listening to themselves. Silence isn't running away. Silence is coming home. Coming home to your inner world. A place with no notifications, no alarms, no judgments. Just your breath and your presence. There's a beautiful teaching in Buddhism. Only a still lake can reflect the moon and stars. Our mind is just like that. When it's stirred up by worry, anger, craving, wisdom can't show up. Only when the mind calms down does clarity begin to speak. Not with words, but with truth. A student once asked a Zen teacher, "Master, I meditate every day, but my mind is still a mess. What should I do?" The teacher smiled and said, "That's okay. Clouds drift across the sky, but the sky isn't hurt by them. Just keep sitting. The sky inside you will reveal itself." Many people think silence is for monks or people with too much free time. But in truth, everyone needs silence. Even just a few minutes a day. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just sit. No phone. No television. Nothing to do. Just sit and breathe. And in that simple act, you begin to see yourself again. You start to feel the tension you've been carrying. The quiet sadness sitting in your chest. The dreams that haven't come true. The disappointments you forgot you were still holding. Not to drown in them, but to understand and let them go. Silence is the deepest medicine. Because in that stillness we realize there's no need to rush. No one needs to be perfect. There's nowhere urgent to be, except right here. In a tiny monastery up in the mountains, there's a sign hanging on the meditation room door. Do not enter if your heart is in a hurry, because silence doesn't come to those who run. It comes to those who are willing to stay. Modern science confirms this too. Even just a few minutes of deep stillness can heal the nervous system, improve focus, and calm emotions. But Buddhism has known this for over 2,500 years. The Buddha didn't teach a religion. He taught a way of living a life with mindfulness. And silence is the foundation of mindfulness. You can't have true mindfulness if your inner world is constantly loud. So, if each day you can take just 5 minutes, no screens, no plans, no distractions, just to breathe in silence, then you've already begun to build a peaceful home inside yourself. And when you have that place within to return to, you won't need to keep chasing peace out in the world, because the real clarity will begin where the silence is. 10. Letting go of expectations. Living in the present moment. One question I hear often, especially from those who are struggling, is this: "I've tried so hard. Why is life still not going the way I hoped?" It sounds like a simple question, but underneath it lies one of the biggest roots of our suffering: expectation. We grow up in a world that teaches us, if you work hard enough, if you give it your all, if you pour your heart into something, then life will reward you. And sometimes, yes, that's true. But life isn't a math equation. Sometimes you give your best and still go unnoticed. You love someone with all your heart, but they still leave. You live kindly and still get misunderstood. Why? Because life isn't always under our control. As the Buddha taught, all things arise from causes and conditions. When the causes are complete, the results will come. But when conditions aren't ripe, no matter how hard you try, the fruit won't appear just yet. The real problem isn't the result. It's what happens in our mind when things don't go the way we expected. We get disappointed. We feel hurt. We get angry, not because the situation is truly bad, but because it's different from what we wanted. I remember a young meditator once told this story. He spent 2 months taking care of his garden, watered it every day, pulled weeds, added fertilizer. He dreamed of a season filled with blossoms. But before anything bloomed, a storm came. Heavy winds flattened everything. The flowers never got to open. He stood in the wrecked garden and cried. Not just because the flowers didn't bloom, but because he couldn't accept that all his effort didn't lead to the result he pictured. That's where the suffering lies. In Buddhism, happiness isn't about getting what you want. It's about not being trapped by what you want. It means living wholeheartedly, loving deeply, giving fully without clinging to outcomes. Do good things without needing people to be grateful. Give without expecting anything in return. Plant seeds, but don't try to force the harvest. Live with presence. Then let go of what lies beyond your reach. It sounds simple, but it's a deep practice. Just like a farmer, they can't rush a seed by pulling it out of the soil. Their job is to plant, water, and care. The rest is up to nature. Life is the same. Give your best. Then release your expectations. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go is wisdom. It's knowing when to surrender without collapsing. Because when you're no longer bound by expectations, your heart feels lighter. Peace becomes closer. You start to enjoy the journey instead of constantly chasing the destination. Some ask, but doesn't letting go of expectations mean giving up on goals? It means you still have direction and discipline, but you no longer let the result define your worth. You don't let outcomes control your peace or shape your sense of self. And in that space where effort is real, but clinging is gone, something beautiful happens. Happiness is no longer something you earn when things go your way. It becomes something you feel right here, in your breath, in your presence, in the sincerity of this very moment. And once you've learned to let go of expectations, you'll start to notice something deeper. The one who built those expectations in the first place was the self you thought you were. 11. Cultivating inner peace. Freedom from life's storms. Have you ever wondered why some people seem calm no matter how chaotic life gets, while others are shaken by just a single harsh word or a small setback? We often believe, if life weren't so hard, if people were kinder, if work was more stable, if things would just go my way, then I could feel peace. But the truth is, peace doesn't come from what's out there. Peace is a state of the mind. It's the ability to not be swept away by the waves, even while the waves keep coming. There's a story of an old monk who lived in a quiet mountain temple. One day, a young student asked him, "Master, how can I stay peaceful when the world is so loud and messy?" The monk smiled and led him to a crystal-clear lake. He grabbed a handful of sand and dropped it into the water. "This," he said, "is your mind when stirred by the outside world." The water turned cloudy and murky. Then the monk just sat. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. He waited. A few minutes later, the sand settled. The water became clear again. "You see," he said, "peace didn't come because the world changed. It came because you stopped shaking your own mind." Peace is not about life becoming easier. It's about your inner lake staying still, even when the wind blows. In Buddhism, this is mindfulness, a quiet awareness that keeps you anchored. When you live with mindfulness, even your breath becomes your refuge. Even your footsteps become your home. Because no matter how hard we try, we can't avoid life's uncertainties. People will act however they want. Jobs will change. Our health, our relationships, nothing stays the same. So if your peace depends on things never changing, you'll always feel like you're drowning. One man told me he used to think meditation was for people with too much free time. But after losing someone during the pandemic, he couldn't avoid questions about life, death, and meaning anymore. He began sitting quietly just 10 minutes a day. No music, no phone, just breathing. And slowly, something shifted. The world didn't quiet down, but his heart did. He stopped panicking. He stopped blaming. He stopped fearing so much. Because inside, he had touched something still and real, a peace that couldn't be taken away. Meditation and mindfulness are the anchor in the storm. They don't change your circumstances, but they change the way you meet those circumstances. When you find that stillness within, you stop needing to fight everything. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop needing everything to go your way. You start living like a quiet stream, gentle but steady. And the beautiful thing is, when someone finds real peace, they don't just heal themselves. They help heal the people around them. A peaceful father becomes a patient guide. A peaceful mother becomes a warm home. A peaceful friend becomes a safe place for others to rest. And a peaceful world begins with just one peaceful mind. So how do we touch that peace? When the ego is still holding on to every reaction, every desire, when the self still wants to be right, be enough, be in control, we'll explore that. In the next part, 12, Training Wisdom Through Meditation, Seeing the Truth of Impermanence. There's something strange about life, isn't there? We all know that everything changes. And yet, every time change really happens, we're surprised. Sometimes, even heartbroken. A friend who once felt so close suddenly drifts away. A relationship we thought would last falls apart. A steady job, good health, a sense of security, all gone in an instant. And then we suffer. Not just because something's gone, but because we were never prepared to lose it. No one really teaches us that everything is temporary. Or maybe someone did try to teach us, but we never truly saw it with the eyes of our own heart. In Buddhism, this truth is called impermanence. And impermanence isn't just some abstract idea. It's as real and constant as the sun rising and setting each day. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. When you see this with wisdom, you no longer suffer." It sounds simple, doesn't it? But truly seeing impermanence isn't about understanding it in your head. It's about experiencing it deeply through meditation. There's a powerful story from Ajahn Chah, a Thai meditation master. One day, a layperson came to him, grieving the death of his mother. He said, "Master, I know the teaching of impermanence, but when my mother passed away, I still felt unbearable pain. Where did I go wrong?" Ajahn Chah smiled and pointed to the ceramic cup beside him. "You see this cup?" he said. "To me, it's already broken." The man looked confused. Ajahn Chah continued, "It hasn't broken yet, but I know one day it will. Maybe it falls. Maybe it cracks with time. And because I've already seen that, when it actually breaks, I don't suffer." That's the heart of meditating on impermanence. Not to become cold, not to stop loving, but to love even more deeply, because we know it won't last forever. When we see clearly that all things are impermanent, we begin to cherish the present instead of clinging to some imagined future. We learn to let go instead of holding on to what no longer fits. And we find more stability, even when life moves in unexpected ways. In the West, many still think meditation is just about relaxation. But in Buddhism, meditation is a path to wisdom. When we deeply contemplate impermanence, our mind begins to shift. We stop clinging to thoughts like, "I must keep this," or "that will always be mine." Instead, we begin to see, "I can't hold on to anything forever, and that's okay." When that understanding sinks in, loss no longer feels like the end of everything. It becomes part of the flow of life, an ending that opens the door to something new. In today's fast-paced world, where everything moves so quickly, this kind of meditation isn't just helpful, it's essential. It doesn't just calm the mind, it sharpens our wisdom so we can see things as they truly are. And once we see clearly, letting go happens naturally, not because we force it, but because we finally understand. So try this. Each day, take just a few minutes to sit quietly. You don't need to do anything fancy. Just breathe and observe something that's changing. It could be a fading leaf outside your window, a shifting emotion inside your heart, or simply your breath, coming in and going out. If you stay with it long enough, you might begin to see what the Buddha saw, that nothing is fixed, nothing is forever. And from that realization, suffering will start to loosen its grip, not because you're avoiding it, but because it no longer clings to you. 13. Practicing mindfulness, being present with every moment. One of the simplest things in life is also one of the hardest to do in today's world. Just being present, truly showing up for this moment, right here, right now. But think about your own day. How often is your body here while your mind is off somewhere else? You're eating, but thinking about the emails you haven't answered. You're walking, but replaying yesterday's conversation. You're sitting with someone you love, but your attention is lost in your phone. And in all of that, we miss things. We miss the quiet beauty of life. We don't live the moment. We just sort of pass through it, like a sleepy passenger on a train, missing the breathtaking view outside. In Buddhism, this forgetfulness is called ignorance, not seeing the present clearly. But there's a remedy, a path that's simple, real, and grounded. It's called mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't something lofty, reserved for monks or temples. It's available in the most ordinary moments. Washing the dishes, walking down the street, drinking a cup of tea, talking with a friend. It means being fully aware of what you're doing, how you feel, without judging or rushing to change it. Just seeing and staying with the seeing. There's a simple story from a Zen master. Someone once asked him, "When you wash the dishes, do you think about the tea you'll drink afterward?" He replied, "When I'm washing the dishes, I'm just washing the dishes. Because if I think about tea while washing, then when I'm drinking tea, I'll be thinking about something else." That answer so simple holds the very heart of mindfulness. It means not living for the next moment, but being alive in this one. Some people think mindfulness only happens when you're sitting on a cushion in silence. But honestly, every step you take is a chance to practice. Just feel your foot touching the earth, your breath going in and out. And right there you've come home. A woman once shared during a Dharma talk in Boston, "After years of meditation, I realized that what helped me with anxiety wasn't trying to fix everything. It was learning to be truly present with small actions." She described washing vegetables one day, feeling the cold water on her hands, the softness of the leaves, the sunlight through the window. And in that moment, there was no fear, just peace born from presence. Mindfulness doesn't erase all of life's problems, but it gives you the clarity and steadiness to face them. It helps you stay anchored, so you're not swept away by every wave. And the beautiful thing is, anyone can start, right where you are. No need for a retreat center. No need for bells or chants. Just come back to your breath, your steps, your hands doing the work of living. Then each moment in daily life becomes part of your meditation. Because the Dharma isn't just in golden statues or ancient texts. It's in the way you truly listen to someone you love. In the way you sip tea with gratitude for its warmth. In the way you look at life with the eyes of someone who's truly awake. So today, whether you're washing dishes, driving, or just sitting alone, try returning to this moment. Feel your breath. Feel your hands. Feel your heart beginning to soften. Mindfulness doesn't ask you to be perfect, only to be present. And little by little, like sunlight, gently pouring through a morning window, peace will return. And once your mind can rest in the present, then and only then can true understanding and compassion begin to grow, because you can't love deeply if you're not truly here with yourself. Let's continue this journey in the next part. 14. Practicing self-compassion, being kind to your wounded heart. There's something strange about the way we treat ourselves. When someone else fails, we're quick to comfort them. It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. But when we mess up, our first words are often, "How could you be so stupid? You should have known better. I can't believe you let that happen." Instead of compassion, we blame. Instead of embracing ourselves, we beat ourselves up. And the pain of failure only grows worse because we've turned our backs on our own hearts. In the Buddhist teachings, compassion isn't just for others. It must start with ourselves. Because if we can't learn to hold space for our own pain, how can we truly feel empathy for someone else's? I remember one time during a retreat in New York, a woman shared through tears, "I've forgiven my husband for all the hurt, but I still can't forgive myself for letting it go on for so long." And maybe many of us have felt the same, believing others deserve gentleness, but not ourselves. But here's the truth. We're all just human, learning to grow through life's bumps and bruises. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and compassion." So when you fall, or hurt, or make a mistake, don't pick up a stick and strike your own heart. Try whispering instead. "I'm human. I'm learning. I'm doing the best I can with what I know right now." These soft words, though small, can feel like a warm coat around a soul that's freezing inside. Self-compassion isn't an excuse. It's not denial or self-pity. It's the truth that healing never comes from punishment. It comes from understanding, acceptance, and kindness. Think of a child who falls down. What do they need? Not scolding, but a gentle hug. And the child inside each of us still needs that same hug. Not another harsh judgment, but a kind and loving gaze. A young monk once said after meditation, "I saw all my flaws, but when I just breathed with them and looked at them with compassion, strangely, they didn't feel shameful anymore. They became something tender, something in need of love." That's when self-compassion begins to bloom. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You just need to be honest with yourself and willing to keep walking. Self-compassion isn't giving up. It's the foundation that helps you stand up again, without resentment, without self-hate, because you deserve to be treated like a friend, not an enemy. So next time you stumble, Try this. Sit quietly. Place a hand on your chest. Feel your breath moving in and out, and whisper to your heart, "I'm still learning. I'm not finished, but I'm still walking." That's not just a comfort. It's a powerful declaration. I choose to love myself even when I'm not perfect. And from that place of inner kindness, your compassion for others will deepen too. Like a full well of water, you can't pour from it unless it's already filled. 15. Not reacting immediately. That's real freedom. Have you ever said something in anger and regretted it later? Or made a quick decision just because emotions were running high? We often think freedom means doing or saying whatever we want, whenever we feel like it. But in the Buddhist teachings, true freedom isn't in the reaction, it's in the ability not to react right away. Between emotion and action, if we can pause, even just for a beat, we can change the entire outcome. Sometimes even change our life. I remember a small story from a retreat. A man once asked a monk, "Every time my wife says something that upsets me, I react immediately. I know it's not good, but I just can't seem to stop myself." The monk smiled, poured him a cup of hot tea, and said, "You see this tea? Even boiling water must be poured slowly, or it burns. Emotions are the same. They can scald the heart of another if you don't wait for them to cool. That pause between the heat and the spill is the shelter of wisdom. When someone insults you, your first instinct might be anger. But if you can stop, take a deep breath, and not respond right away, you're no longer a victim of your emotions. You've become the master of your mind. The Buddha once said, "Like a bell only rings when struck, our minds only stir when something hits." But if we don't react, there's no sound for the striker to play with. That silence, it's not weakness, it's inner freedom. Many people think silence means defeat. But for a practitioner, silence at the right time is the greatest victory. A friend once shared how after a heated argument with her boss, instead of lashing out, she chose silence. She walked out, stood on the grass behind the office, and just breathed. Just breathed. 10 minutes later, her anger was gone. And when she returned, her words came not from hurt, but from calm. That conversation not only saved her job, it strengthened their mutual respect. Why? Because she knew how to pause. In meditation, the first thing we're taught isn't impermanence or compassion. It's mindfulness of breath. Because the breath is a bridge, bringing us back to now, pulling us out of the flood of emotion. So the next time you're about to react, ask yourself, is this my emotion talking? Or is this my wisdom choosing? Sometimes all it takes is one question, one breath, one pause, to create space for true freedom to arise. We can't control the world, but we can learn not to be dragged by everything in it. And that's what liberation looks like in everyday life. When you learn how to pause and stop reacting on impulse, you begin to enter a deep place of peace. And from that stillness, you start to see both yourself and the world through the clear, awakened eyes of mindfulness. 16. Transforming anger into positive action. We've all been there. That moment when anger rises because of a careless comment, a disrespectful gesture, or maybe just a misunderstanding no one bothered to clear up. Anger is very human, and it's not necessarily bad. In Buddhism, emotions are not denied or pushed away. The Buddha never taught us to suppress anger He taught us how to transform it. Because anger, like fire, can burn everything to ashes. But when used wisely, fire can also warm, cook, and light the way. A young meditator once asked a Zen master, "Master, I get angry often, but I try hard to hold it in so I don't hurt anyone. Is that the right way?" The master smiled, pointed at the firewood beside the hearth, and said, "If you only suppress fire without using it, it may one day explode out of control. But if you light it at the right time, it can cook your food, warm your body, and brighten your home." Anger, if not transformed, can turn into bitterness, resentment, or even destructive behavior. But if we can redirect that energy into something meaningful, we turn the storm into a stream. There was once a mother who shared her experience. Whenever her children made her angry, instead of yelling, she would wash the dishes thoroughly, clean the kitchen, then take a quiet walk around the block. She said, "My hands are busy, but my heart is calming down." And by the time she returned, the anger no longer had a grip on her. Her words to her children were kinder, more mindful, because she had acted instead of reacting. She transformed the energy instead of letting it consume her. In the Buddhist teachings, there's a beautiful principle: don't suppress, don't run, observe, and transform. Transformation means being aware of the anger, breathing with it, and guiding that energy into something of value. Some people sit quietly in meditation. Others write their feelings down, garden, exercise, or simply sit beside a cup of tea in silence. These are all ways to move the fire toward light. When the energy flows, emotions settle. And in that space, we are no longer being driven by anger. We become aware of how we wish to respond. Just like how a musician turns sorrow into music, or a painter transforms loneliness into art, we too can use anger to create something beautiful in life. A great monk once said, "Anger teaches us where our boundaries are, but compassion shows us how to move beyond them." So next time you feel anger rising, instead of asking, "Who hurt me?" try asking, "What can I do with this energy so no one else gets hurt?" That's what transformation looks like. That's what real practice looks like, right in the middle of daily life. And when you do this, day by day, your anger stops being a burden and becomes a powerful source of awakening. 17. Living simply, clearing space to free the mind. Have you ever walked into a cluttered room filled with things you don't even use and instantly felt overwhelmed? It's not the air that's missing, it's space, even in your mind. Funny, isn't it? Just a few scattered items, and somehow they mirror the chaos inside us. But as we begin to clean that room, folding each shirt, wiping each shelf, tossing out what no longer serves us, we're not just clearing a space, we're clearing ourselves. Letting go of piled up stress, releasing old fears, fading dreams, and outdated expectations. In the monastic life, there's a simple teaching: the simpler the life, the deeper the path. The lighter the load, the farther you can walk. Simplicity on the outside isn't about being strict or austere. It's about giving the mind room to breathe. One young student once told me, he always felt cramped in his mind, busy, tense, restless. He didn't know why. One day, he decided to clean his entire apartment. He packed up unused items, donated old clothes, cleared his desk, and afterward, something surprising happened. He said, "It felt like I took a load off my chest. Now, each morning, I clean the corner where I meditate. Just a small cushion, a few scriptures, and a clear space. And I breathe easier." Living simply doesn't mean lacking. It means making space for what truly matters. In the sutras, the Buddha once taught, "The one who desires little is the one who is most free." It's not about giving up everything, but letting go of what doesn't nourish mindfulness and peace. In a fast, noisy world where everyone wants more things, more success, more attention, many people feel tired. That's why we can start small. Clean one corner of your desk. Remove a few items from your closet. Turn off social media for just one evening. Every time you do this, you're making more room for the mind to rest and reflect. The mind no longer needs to hold on to everything. It's allowed to breathe, to be present, to feel deeply. One friend shared that after simplifying her home and reducing her shopping habits, she could hear her inner voice again. No longer distracted by the new, the flashy, the must-have. She realized peace comes from within, not from stuff. And now, every morning, she simply makes tea, sits by the window, and watches the sunlight rise, feeling whole, even without anything extra. That's the gift of simplicity. It doesn't shout. It doesn't impress. It simply lets your heart come home. And when we clear out the clutter in our space and our mind, that's when we start to see clearly and truly live moment by moment. 18. The what-if wisdom, a question that opens the heart. There's something we all go through at some point in life. Being misunderstood, being criticized, hearing things about ourselves that simply aren't true. And when it happens, the first reaction is often anger. The heart flares up like fire. Questions pop up immediately. How dare they say that about me? I didn't do anything. Why am I being treated this way? But in the Buddha's teachings, there's a different way of approaching this. A path not driven by instinct, but guided by wisdom. And it begins with one simple question. What if? What if something deeper is going on that made them act this way? What if their words are actually pointing me towards something in myself I haven't fully seen? That one small shift in questioning can open a whole new world inside us. Instead of reacting, exploding, or feeling deeply wounded, we pause. And in that pause, we start to see more clearly what's happening both inside of us and in the person in front of us. One time, a Buddhist practitioner told me a story. She had been harshly criticized by a close family member for something she hadn't done. She came home and cried in silence, feeling betrayed. But instead of feeding the anger, for the first time, she asked herself, what pain might they be carrying that made them speak that way? And then it hit her. That person had just gone through deep stress, disappointments, and emotional wounds. That realization didn't excuse the hurtful words, but it helped her step out of the victim role. It freed her from hatred. And in its place, she saw with compassion and responded with generosity of spirit. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, hatred is never ended by hatred. It is only by love that hatred is ended. This is an eternal truth. And sometimes, love begins with just one question. One, what if? One small, maybe. That soft little question becomes the doorway to wisdom and to compassion. A wise Zen master once told his student, when you see someone angry, look at them like a child in pain. They're not bad. They're just hurting. Because we've all been that child once, crying because we didn't know how to say what we felt, yelling because no one listened. And if someone back then had chosen to understand instead of judge, maybe now we can do the same for someone else. Sometimes spiritual practice doesn't mean sitting for hours on a cushion. It's when we choose not to react right away. When we ask, "What's behind this behavior?" instead of, "How dare they do that?" That's the wisdom of compassion. Wisdom, that's not sharp like a knife, but soft like water. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just understands. And the beautiful thing is, Sansei, we understand. We're not angry anymore. Asking the right question at the right time can heal a wound, save a relationship, and most importantly, bring peace back to your own heart. And once you've learned to ask that of others, maybe try asking yourself, am I hurting myself by reacting too quickly? If I choose peace, what would I do differently right now? It's in those quiet questions that we begin to see clearly. True freedom isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering the way we respond. 19. Turning conflict into an opportunity for understanding. A question that many people carry throughout life is, why can't they just understand me better? But perhaps the more powerful question is, have I truly tried to understand them? In everyday life, conflict and misunderstanding come without warning. A careless comment, an ill-timed glance, and just like that, a peaceful day turns into a storm. In those moments, we stand at a crossroad. One road leads to instant reaction, anger, blame, withdrawal. The other asks us to pause and gently inquire, what's really going on inside that person? Is there another way I can respond? In the Buddha's teachings, this is known as compassion in action. Compassion doesn't mean staying silent and suffering. It also doesn't mean agreeing with what's wrong. Compassion means choosing not to respond with more hurt, but with a desire to understand. There's a beautiful story about the Buddha that many of us know. One day, a stranger approached him and began to insult him in public. The Buddha didn't get angry. He didn't fire back. He simply said, if someone brings a gift but you don't accept it, the gift stays with the giver. In the same way, if you offer me harsh words and I don't accept them, those words remain with you. That's not weakness. That's the wisdom of one who sees the root of all conflict. Now, in modern life, that's not easy. When someone close to us says something hurtful, our first impulse is to defend ourselves, to shut down, to walk away. But just once, try asking them, are you okay? Is something hurting you right now? You might be amazed. That one gentle question can open up a whole new space where two hearts can begin to listen again. An elderly Buddhist shared her story with me once. Her husband was a quiet man, but when angry, he could say cold, cutting things. It hurt her deeply, but instead of retaliating, she began asking, are you tired? Is work stressful today? And slowly, something changed. He began opening up, something he hadn't done in decades. They were no longer facing off. They were healing together. The Buddha once said, when compassion is present, every word becomes a healing word. And often, those healing words begin with a question spoken from the heart. Conflict isn't always bad. It can be a doorway. If we're calm enough to walk through, it can be an opportunity. If we're generous enough to keep it open. In meditation, we learn to turn inward when emotion arises. But in real life, when someone else is hurting us, that's our chance to turn outward and practice loving kindness. And if someone has hurt you, maybe try looking at them as a mirror. Mirrors don't just reflect wrinkles. They show us where we still need healing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson we needed all along. 20. Patience, the foundation of wisdom. There's something most people don't really want to hear. But it's one of the most essential truths on the path of life and spiritual growth. Everything truly precious in life takes time. We live in a fast world. One tap and food is delivered. One message and a relationship begins. A few steps and we expect results. But here's the truth. No seed blooms the same day it's planted. No mind becomes clear after just one meditation. And no emotional wound heals without time. The Buddha once said, just as a farmer knows when to plant and when to harvest, a practitioner must understand some fruits only ripen in their own season. There was an elderly Buddhist woman who once came to the temple. She said she had been chanting and meditating, but still felt unsettled, still hadn't found peace. When asked how long she had been practicing, she replied, "Just a few weeks, teacher." She laughed when the teacher gently said, "We spend a whole lifetime building up wounds in our heart. So why expect to heal them in just a few weeks?" Patience isn't about doing nothing. It's about showing up every day, nurturing the seeds, even when we don't yet see the flower. It's quiet strength. It's wisdom that says, if you want sweet fruit, don't pull up the tree just because it hasn't blossomed yet. In meditation, patience means breathing steadily, even if the mind is restless. It's sitting again tomorrow, even if today didn't feel peaceful. In daily life, patience means continuing to love, continuing to be kind, even when others don't understand you yet. There's an old story of a Zen master who lived in the forest. Every day, he would visit a small stream and simply watch the water flow. One day, a student asked, "Master, what are you looking for in that stream?" The master smiled and said, "I'm not looking for anything. I'm learning how water, with gentle persistence, wears down stone, not with force, but with endurance. Maybe we're not a stream, but we can learn to be patient like one, not rushing, not loud, just flowing, and eventually arriving where we need to be." So many dreams don't fail because of lack of talent, but because of lack of patience. Just a little more effort, and we might have reached the finish line. But we give up too soon because we wanted instant results. And the biggest regret? Not that we failed, but that we gave up when we were just one more step away. If you're on a journey of healing, or spiritual growth, or simply becoming a better human being, trust this. Every wholesome seed you plant is quietly sprouting beneath the surface. It's just not yet time for it to bloom. 21. Awakened humor. Nurturing a light-hearted spirit. Here's something that's often forgotten, even by longtime practitioners. Being mindful doesn't always have to be serious. And spirituality doesn't mean walking around with a heavy heart and a solemn face. In fact, on the path of awakening, sometimes the deepest meditation is simply a well-timed smile. Have you ever caught yourself getting upset over something really small, only to laugh later at how dramatic you were being? That's awakened humor. When you can step back, see your ego reacting, and chuckle at yourself with kindness. The Buddha never said we must always look stern. In fact, many old Zen stories show masters using clever jokes, even playful mischief, to help students wake up. A smile offered at the right moment not only softens others' hearts, it shows your own heart is no longer clinging to the seriousness of ego. A student once asked, "Teacher, how will I know I'm progressing on the path?" The teacher said, "It's simple when you can laugh without mocking and cry without being swallowed by sorrow." Awakened humor isn't sarcasm. It's lightness with mindfulness. It's being able to smile when you notice your ego getting irritated, trying to prove itself, wanting to be right. It's when someone cuts you off in traffic and you think, "Ah, another lesson in patience just sped by me." That kind of genuine playfulness isn't denial. It's wisdom and compassion in action. It's knowing you're still learning, still growing, and that's perfectly okay. Awakened humor is like early morning light, not harsh, but enough to let you see clearly. A well-timed laugh can ease tension, melt the heaviness in relationships, and gently remind us, life isn't a battle to win. It's a journey to understand and walk through with grace. Even when your soul feels tired, a touch of humor keeps it afloat, like a boat in deep waters that sails easier once it lets go of unnecessary weight. And that smile is part of the letting go. When you can laugh at yourself, you've taken a big step toward release. No longer needing to be right. No longer afraid of messing up. No longer holding on to things that once felt so serious. From that lightness comes loving kindness for others and for yourself. And so, after all the stories we've reflected on today, from letting go of pain, to practicing mindfulness in daily moments, to simply smiling at the ego when it flares up, we begin to realize something beautiful. Awakening isn't a destination. It's the footsteps we take every day. It's each breath we return to. Each moment we choose understanding over reaction. Each time we soften instead of trying to control. Life will never be perfect. People won't either. But in that imperfection, we find our path back home. Back to a heart that knows how to forgive. Eyes that see with compassion. And a soul that dares to let go. And love again, no matter the past. The Buddha once said, "Among the chaos of the world, the awakened one is like a lotus, untouched by the mud, yet offering fragrance." So, if today you're feeling weary, if your heart is heavy with things you still can't let go of, just begin again. Start with one mindful breath. Sit down, be still, and listen to the voice of truth within you. That, right there, is the beginning of true freedom. Not freedom from the world, but freedom within the world. If these reflections touched your heart today, if you feel a little more peaceful, a little lighter, help us share that peace. Hit subscribe to join the Buddhism Seeds channel. Give this video a like. Share it with someone who might need a moment of stillness. And leave a comment below. Let us know what spoke to your heart the most. Because sometimes, your words might be the light someone else is waiting for in their darkest hour. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video. May your day be peaceful, and may your journey home be gentle, one breath at a time.